Good morning and welcome to this week's IGTV. Today I'm talking about my teen won't spend time with me and that heartbreak of feeling so rejected by a being that you love so much and have invested so much time in, and they just want to hide in their room. I saw a lot of posts about this over the holidays specifically, whether it was young adults or older teens who were home for Christmas holidays, and whether this was parents who were on Christmas break enjoying some holiday time as well, and their teenager, high school student perhaps, was at home and in their room and not wanting to spend time with them. And I saw a lot of posts in my parenting community about how heartbreaking that felt for these amazing caring parents who just wanted to spend some time with their teenager or young adult who had a very different idea of what the holidays was going to look like. So I wanted to talk about that today and just give you a little bit of perspective and a couple tools to help you jump into that. Now, before I hop in, I am offering a free live masterclass on January 17th. And it is 5 secrets to get your teenager to do what you asked the first time without the constant nagging and reminding. You can get there via the link in my bio. So if you hit the follow first, if you tap my name, there's a link in my profile, or you just go to my website, alipayne.com. There's a big pink banner at the top. Make sure you hit that register now to get your spot for January 17th. Okay, so here's what I want to say about this, is that it is normal for parents to want to spend time with your teenager. I mean, yeah, I love that. And yes, that's actually what I'm going to talk about is why this is happening. That's what I'm going to talk about today. So for so many parents, this is natural and this is normal to feel heartbroken and feel rejected. And there's a couple reasons. So, well, actually, I don't want to go there yet. So first of all, here's what ends up happening. This is usually what ends up happening because it happens right after the post or right before the post that maybe you made in my parenting community. Is it looks and sounds like you have an idea, you have an expectation, you have a vision, a picture, a sense, a feeling in your body, something in your mind about what holidays or weekend time is going to look like. And you're all excited. And because our brains do a lot of relationship unconsciously, you probably haven't communicated this to your young adult or your teen. You just have it in your head. And you're like, yeah, like I'm going to go with that, right? Of course, because you love them and you want to spend time with them. Totally get that. So you are, going through the motions of creating the expectation, of enacting the expectation that you have that your teenager is going, or young adult is going to want to crave time with you over the holidays as well. So that's kind of the first thing, right? And then when it doesn't happen, what goes on is you feel rejected, and that's real. That's totally real. You feel rejected and hurt and maybe even a little resentful and put out and be like, excuse me, but like I paid for your school, university, or I paid for your trip home and now all you're doing is sitting in your room, or I paid for your phone and you don't get to be on your phone the whole holiday, or, I put a roof over your head and food on the table and now it's holidays and you don't even want to spend time with me. Like how dare you? So there's like an anger piece, and then there's a pain and a sadness, and it's all normal. It's all normal. What comes out of that is generally you ask your teenager, you ask your teen or your young adult, because you're engaging with this expectation that you have, right? So you ask your teen or your young adult for a specific time, like, well, can we go out for dinner? I thought we'd go hang out, or hey, do you want to go shopping? Or like whatever the fave thing is, or maybe whatever you two used to do together. And so you ask because you have an assumption based on your expectation this is going to happen. So you ask, and your teenager maybe is like, I'm good, thanks, peace out. Like, or actually I'd rather just go to my friends. Okay, bye. Also normal. So there's this disconnection between your bid, that's called a relationship bid, is when you are asking them to connect. That's what a relationship bid is. A connection bid is a request to connect. And by the way, 70% of connection bids are missed by the other person in the relationship. Like in marriages, in like all 70% of them fall flat. So it's not just your teen, and it's not just that you're a bad parent and they don't love you. No, we're not going to do that. So after you make this basic request and you get a response kind of like, no, I'm good, or yeah, I was going to a friend's, okay, bye, or just no thanks, and they go sit in their room, right? Then that's when your hurt and rejection start to build. And then that generally turns into little teeny, not so teeny comments that are critical or guilting, right? Because you want to spend time with your teen or your young adult, but all they want from you is a ride somewhere or money so they can go do things without you. And you're like, no. And so you start pushing back. I don't know what you're pushing against exactly, but you're pushing back because you're angry and you're hurt. And that's what we do when we're hurt and angry, is we go, something like that, right? So you're pushing back against their request because they want rides somewhere, they want money, and that's like hurtful to you because you're like, but I want to spend the time and I have the car and I have the money, so no, not unless it's with me. It's a little bit, it's transactional. It's transactional. You're saying you don't get to have my resources to enjoy the time the way that you wanted to spend it unless you use my resources with me. So it's a little bit of saying my resources are mine, time, money, car, energy, whatever. My resources are mine, and you don't get to have them unless you use them the way I want to. And again, that's normal. We do that when we're hurt. We totally do that when we're hurt. It's about saying that my way of spending my resources is better than your way. Your way is selfish. Your way is self-centered and selfish and inconsiderate and even disrespectful. I understand that's how it feels when you're hurt. I understand that's how it feels. It's actually not, though. Your teenager is not being totes like disrespectful and selfish, and they're not. And I'll explain why in a second. So your comments and your behavior begin to change as your hurt and resentment or anger, rejection, begins to take hold of your thoughts, right, and your behavior. Now, what this usually lands in is you buying your teenager a one-way ticket to guilt. Or young adults. It's a guilt trip. So what you end up doing is using guilt. And what guilt is a way of saying, I feel in a way that is too much, angry, hurt, whatever. I feel emotions that, number one, feel too big for me to carry. And number two, I think are your responsibility to carry. They're actually your fault that I'm having these feelings, so you should carry them. So, oh my gosh, this is exactly it. Yes, your son is 13. Okay, you're in the right place. Please stick with me. I'm going to explain why this happens. And so you are using guilt as a form of changing what they're doing. So again, guilt is saying, my feelings I'm having right now are actually your fault. So there's a bit of a root of blame in there. My painful, angry feelings I'm having are your fault, so you need to carry them. So guilt is sentences like, well, I can't believe we paid for you to come home at Christmas and all you do is sit in your room. This is our house and we're paying for the food and the least you could do is come and spend 10 minutes with us. Something like that. Or maybe like, they ask you for a ride to go hang out with a friend, or they ask you like for money to go do something with someone else. And you're like, no, like how selfish, you should want to spend, don't you forget who your family is, like all of those things. Okay. Like we've all heard them. I get it. And if you say it, That's fine. Zero judgment here, zero. Okay. Sometimes it's a little more insidious. Sometimes it's a little under your breath through clenched teeth as your teenager's like walking into the kitchen to get their sixth snack of the day, but they won't eat a meal with you. And you're like, well, if you just spend time with family and eat with us, maybe you wouldn't need so many snacks, right? Like it's all this kind of whispering stuff. Those are all guilt. They are based in blame, which blame is one of the 4 big toxic communication styles. Blame, criticism, because what guilt is saying is there is something that you are doing that is inherently wrong. Okay, is it? Well, stick with me. There's something you are doing that is inherently wrong. And you need to fix it. So blame is saying someone else, your teenager, is the solution. Blame is saying, I don't know the solution. I just own the problem and it hurts too much. So now it's your fault. And therefore anyone who's being blamed and is at fault is therefore responsible for the solution, for any kind of resolution or restitution. So you're removing yourself from any solution and you're putting it all on your teen. So, and something your teenager's doing or saying or being, whatever, is wrong. So that's what guilt is saying. That becomes criticism, saying that there's something you are doing that is wrong and you need to change. That's criticism. And then it can also become shame. And that is saying it's not just what you're doing, it's who you're being is wrong. Who you're being is so far from what I am willing to be with, so far from who I raised you to be, so inconsiderate and shame is saying there is something actually inherently flawed in your teenager's character or your young adult's character in the way that they are being. Okay? And that's why this all goes off the rails. Because now from there, you know what I'm talking about. From there, there's more arguing or complete silence and shutdown. Nobody's saying what actually needs to be said. Everyone's just blaming, shaming, and criticizing. No one's taking ownership of how they feel. And let's go back to nobody is actually verbalizing the unconscious intention or expectation that you had about the holiday. You have not verbalized this to your teenager or young adult, and your young adult or teenager has not verbalized what they had as an expectation for the holiday either. So now we end up in arguments, hurt feelings, blow-ups, arguments about like who put the coffee somewhere, and it's not got nothing to do about the coffee. It's that your feelings also are so hurt and you're bottling them up, trying to keep the peace. They've come out some other way. Now we have disconnection at a much greater scale. So if that sounds familiar, just type yes in the comments. Whether you're a teen or an adult watching this, does that sound familiar? I know I've done it, and it's really, really hard. So here's why this is happening to that gorgeous mom who just typed in about your 13-year-old son. Tweens and teens, okay, their brains fundamentally change. Oh, I'm so glad. Oh, I'm so glad you're all here. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I'm going to make this as meaningful as possible. Thank you. Tweens and teens go through the adolescent brain development stage. I'm not going to get into massive amount of detail on it, but their brains literally change. They densify. They go from being very simple computing systems to densification. Think of like scaffolding around a building, but then the scaffolding doesn't come down. The scaffolding stays up and it fills in all of the blanks. Okay? Like it's like one of those adult coloring books. All these new lines are appearing and they're coloring in the blanks as well, like the whole thing. Now, in that process, it actually can shift and change their personality. And one of those things that's most common is they just don't spend as much time with you, okay? So they go through 2 simultaneous processes. The first is individuation, which is who am I in the world? Because as a child, So the adolescent brain development is the second and final brain growth, not just development, like actually brain growth phase of our human lifetime. And it is massive, absolutely massive. Now, in that adolescent brain development, they go through individuation, where they are deciding and their brain is growing its own identity, a complex identity that is different from when they were a child, which was they were more a mirror of you. They were a mimic of you because they were learning to human. They were just learning to human. And so they were a kind of like a cut and paste a little bit, a copy of you, and things were friendly and they wanted to spend time with you, etc. Okay. Now, as they're beginning to individuate, they're learning to adult. Now, learning to adult is a far, far, far more complex process than learning to human, because how they adult is not how you adult. It's just not possible. You're two autonomous human beings. So their brain is going through this massive process of learning who are they when they're not mimicking you. Who are they as an individual in this world? What do they believe in? What are their values? What do relationships look like? A social hierarchy, networking, like it's like figuring out like one of those those slide puzzles, right, where you have to keep sliding things to get it in the right, and there's only like one. They're doing this whole thing for their own life. It's a big freaking deal. The second process they're going through is differentiation. Sorry, I hit my camera. I don't mean to give you vertigo. Is differentiation. And the process of differentiation is similar to individuation, but it's different. It is actually, who am I away from you? And the entire point of differentiation is that your teenager is literally going to disagree with and push against everything you taught them, everything that maybe they once liked or loved, even friends they've had for a long time, relationships, sports they valued, all of those things. It's like a giant no. And then seeing what is true as they become different from you. Okay, so one is who am I? The other is I need to be different from you. Now, as horrific as those feel as a parent, that nobody told you about, was coming, those are necessary for survival. So I don't know if you've ever watched Discovery Channel or National Geographic and you see like the cubs, like and they're like feeding from mommy and they don't go anywhere. And then all of a sudden a day comes where those cubs are now starting to go out hunting with the mom or the dad, right? And they're starting to learn. So they were just learning to be that species first. Now they're learning independence and they're going out hunting with them and they're learning how to eat, like not from their mom. They're learning how to eat solid food, how to like watch for prey, they're learning to do all these things, right? Necessary for survival. Yeah. Okay. And then in almost all other species other than adults, that's done within a first year, a year, maybe two, and they're on their own. Okay. The adolescent brain development is entirely intended so that your teenager will become a successful, independent human being by learning to adult. And they do a lot of that without you. In fact, current data shows that by the age of 12, your tween has spent around 72% of their living waking hours with you by 12. By 18, they have spent over 90% of their living waking hours with you. That is necessary to individuate, to differentiate. It is necessary for independent living and successful thriving as an adult, is they simply don't need you as much. They don't want to spend as much time with you. And guilt is a form of manipulation. So when you are guilting, which is a natural outcome of feeling rejected and hurt, I just want to say that again, it's a natural and normal outcome, to blame and use guilt. You are manipulating your teen to somehow take care of feelings and emotions that are deeply painful and hard, and they are yours. They are not your teenagers. And that begins a grieving process, which is also very healthy for parents of teenagers. and tweens and young adults, because it happens at a different, oh, I'm so glad that landed for you. Okay. It is really normal for sometimes this happens when you're, as this mama wrote, tween or teen at like 13. Sometimes they do this differentiation thing individual at like 16. It's different for each, but it is somewhere in the adolescent years for the most part. And here's what I promise you. When you use guilt, which is based in blame and it's shaming because it's inherently making them wrong, okay? You are sowing disconnection at a rate that is faster than what I think you know. So rather than build more disconnection, which is going to show up in all little parts of your relationship, what I want for you is a couple things. When your teenager or young adult and he comes home for the holidays, or you just are heading into Christmas holidays, or maybe it'll be like winter break, okay? Coming up. Please, please take the data that I just shared with you in mind, that your teenager, your tween, your young adult, their job is to have a life without you. They're doing their job. They are simply having you as a mentor, which feels like a hotel. I know, right? It feels like all of a sudden you're just a hotel. Okay? You should be proud. You have so much to be proud of in the human being that you are raising, that they are doing this process. Please, yes, be proud of you. You have not failed. They are not bad or mean. They are doing what is physiologically, biologically required of them to survive. Okay? So I want you to articulate your expectations. So be careful, because these are expectations, which are unspoken behaviors that you want other people to play along with without necessarily having considered their side. That's essentially an expectation. You are projecting the experience you want to have on them, and then you just get really mad and angry and resentful and hurt when they don't do it. Okay. So let's put on our parenting panties. Okay. So before you approach the next holiday season or time off or the weekend or whatever, I want you to keep in mind the data I told you, okay, of how little time they actually are spending with you from here forward, okay? Remember all of those things. Then ask for what you want. There's a holiday coming up. I would really like to spend, have a game night, and, we're going to go to grandparents for a night, and then maybe this. Is that okay with you? It's a negotiation, because they're learning to adult. And their no is not a I don't love you. Their no is I'm setting a boundary. Because remember, mom or dad, you taught me what a boundary is. So I'm setting a boundary with you. And when I hear you tell me that boundary is wrong and you guilt or shame me for it, I'm learning to deny and suppress what feels true for me. And that is not a message you want to send to your teen. You want to respect their boundaries. So when you communicate what you would like over a holiday and you negotiate it with them and say, this is what I'd like, how does that feel for you? And they're like, well, teenagers don't love planning as it is, so that's cool. But they're like, well, I was kind of, hoping to hang out with some of my friends or whatever. And you're like, okay, that's great. I got no problem with that. Can we agree to have these few times that you actually put in your calendar? And I know, and you have to say, it's okay if you're not going to love all of them, like going to hang out at grandparents or hang out at cousins maybe. I know you're not going to love all those times, right? And what does technology and phone time look like when you're at those places, etc., or dinner times or whatever? Talk about these things first. That is you modeling ownership. That is you modeling taking responsibility for your feelings and experience and not projecting it on them as if they are somehow responsible for that, because they're not. Okay? So manage your expectations with the data I gave you and clearly communicate them prior to the event so that you negotiate what feels right for both of you, which instantly builds respect, which is foundational for the connection that you actually want and feel like you're missing. Is it okay to say something like, you'll regret not spending time? No, that's guilt. That's guilt. Oh, you're going to regret this later. That's guilting. They might regret it later. I don't know. That's their life journey. Maybe they will. Maybe they won't. You know, I got told that too. And did I ever regret it? No. I lost my grandparents when I was in my early 20s. And I did make time to go see them on my own that my parents actually don't even know about. And I said my goodbyes and I felt really good about so no, I didn't regret it. So there, you are passing your disappointment on, which is shaming. And you are passing on your perspective of your life about what you regret onto your teenager, which isn't fair either, because maybe they won't regret it. And if they do, that's on them. Okay? So, it is what it is. They say, you know, I regret not going to grandma and grandpa's, or I regret not talking to you. You're like, yeah, that was too bad. We created as many opportunities as possible, and we wanted to respect your choice, and oh well, right? So, that's the first two steps. The third step is grieving. This is normal. This whole painful, messy process. When you allow yourself permission to grieve, to cry out on paper with a therapist, in a journal, with a friend, what your heart wanted, what you thought it was going to be like, because nobody tells us this stuff is happening. What you wanted, your highest dream that isn't happening. Let yourself have that. Not with your teenager. That's not their job. This is your work. To acknowledge the dream in your heart that feels broken. To allow yourself to be angry. To believe that they're selfish. Teenagers are selfish. Teenagers and young adults are selfish. It is a function of their brain. Their brain, I don't know if you can imagine your brain densifying, and for every one neural pathway, it rewriting 6 to 10 new ones. Do you have any idea of the mental and emotional capacity that requires to just live when your brain's doing that? It's phenomenal. And so, yeah, they have a very limited bandwidth to see things outside of themselves. Their empathy goes down a little bit, but they're not here to caretake your feelings, right? So if you want respect, Ali, I'm just asking for a little bit of respect. Okay, then model respect, my sweet dear friend. Model respect by owning the experience you want to create, verbalizing that in advance, negotiating that with your teen with respect to boundaries they set. You're both not going to love probably what was negotiated, but you did it coming to the table with finding what works for both of you. That is modeling respect. And all of that is necessary for the kind of connection that you want to build. If this all feels complicated and you just want a really simple way to not do those spicy, guilting, manipulation, blaming comments to your teen because you're feeling hurt and rejected, then I've got something for you. I'm running a free live masterclass January 17th. It's a Wednesday. It's about 10 days from now. You must register if you're going to get in on it. And I'm going to be talking about the 5 ways to get your teen, 5 secrets, my 5 secrets to get your teenager to do what you asked the first time without the constant nagging and reminding, because that instantly builds respect. You feel calmer, and you need both of those for more connection. So there is a link in my profile. So if you're here on Instagram, tap the follow. If you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe. And tap my name. You can go to the little link in my profile. It says get the goods. Tap that, and there is you can register for free there, or just go to my website, alipayne.com. Big pink banner at the top. tap that. Make sure you get your seat. All the details are on the page. Yes, there will be a replay for a limited time, but you've got to register or you'll get none of it. And there are some bonuses, of course, when you attend live. So you're going to want to do that. Thanks everybody for joining me today. I want to wish you all an amazing 2024. Happy New Year to every one of you. I'm so grateful that you're choosing to do this really messy, awkward, hard journey of parenting teens, tweens, and young adults with me. And thank you to all of you gorgeous teenagers who showed up today and are sharing your voice in my comments and on my videos to help parents help parents understand some of where you are coming from and what life is like for you right now. So thank you to each one of you. Happy New Year, everybody. I'll see you soon. Bye.